It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. For those of you who are new, this is a regular weekly segment where I read some of the comments for the week and talk about them. I did this for a couple reasons. One, I just believe in engagement. I believe in talking. I believe in dialogue. Two, it actually makes the quality of the comments better. You can't expect people, when we talked about the whole harassment thing earlier this week, you can't just go, don't harass, don't harass, don't harass. You have to actively reward people who behave in a way you want. If there's some sort of reward, even if it just makes a person feel better for behaving this way, and there's no reward for behaving this way, what do you think the person's going to do? The thing that gets them some sort of reward, You can't expect people to have self-restraint or have them engage in delayed gratification unless there's some sort of benefit down the road, right? And that's sort of gonna be a theme today. It's been a really weird week. I mean, plus side. Midway through the Twitch stream yesterday, a commenter said, I'm gonna go and watch the lunar rover. I'm gonna leave early today. I'm like, well, don't go. We'll watch it. Like, I like space. And so we watched the Mars landing. Why do I never remember the name? Perseverance. The Perseverance landing. We watched it on Twitch, and I had to very quickly kill the copyrighted music at the end. But yeah, it was fun. That was cool. I love those sort of impromptu things. Yeah, that was cool. People are raw right now. If you are in Texas or even one of the states that didn't, have a colossal failure of their electrical grid and their heating, but still are coping with snow you're not used to dealing with, my heart goes out to you. The 5 years ago now, we had a really terrible ice storm in Toronto, and we had no power for 6 days. And so we were, living via, we were heating and cooking by a fireplace because there was no power in our house. And that it was, thank God we had a working fireplace. It was stressful. You never quite sleep because you're just trying to keep the fire going and make sure that internal temperature doesn't drop too low. You don't have water, really, nothing, because all the power's out. So I'm going to talk about this stuff with that in the background. That stuff's real. And we need to prioritize things like that with talking about, did somebody do something rude, or, something about a video game we do or don't like. No Twilight Princess remaster again with Nintendo. I love Twilight Princess. I know people are super happy about Skyward Sword, but I want Twilight Princess. In part because I keep talking about this game. I named a cat Midna, and my husband has never seen anything but videos for Twilight Princess, and I'd love to share that game with him, but I currently have no system to play it on because I gave my mother my Wii. She still uses it to do Wii Fit. So, moving on from that. I haven't done, if you like what I do today, if you like my approach, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Lana K. I don't chase the algorithm. I don't do a lot of drama stuff, only when it directly affects me. And that's less drama and more, here's my side of it. I'm saying it once. I don't, if you want this sort of content, please support it. Please do something active. I feel like I'm on PBS right now, but damn it, I love All Creatures Great and Small and other things on Masterpiece. So, okay. I spent a lot of time sitting with the ninja thing again. There was a big response the first time, so I did that video, and then there was a fairly big response to that video too. He's a popular personality, right? That's probably a big thing. It's also just it's a really tender subject, I guess. I mean, I guess I can understand that as somebody who, I don't get it as much anymore because I don't go anywhere. But when I was younger and on TV and married already, guys would tell people they slept with me. It wasn't at all true. Very, very not true. But they said it. I never understood why. I never understood, one, why they didn't think somebody would tell me, and why once I knew, I'd ever have anything to do with them again. They weren't thinking. They felt small. They said something to make themselves feel bigger. It happens. It's not right, but it happens. So I'm sympathetic to that, right? I'm sympathetic. Years of being called slut, whore, bitch, all this, like, just all that stuff. Nobody likes it. I found that the more you tried to stop it, the more people saw it as a vulnerability and they drilled in on that point greater. That's not a judgment. That's just an observation. The one thing I am gonna flag on the play, and I thought very carefully about how to explain my objection to this. There were a lot of comments of, well, it's his wife doing it. It's not him, it's his wife. He's not doing anything, but his wife's jealous, all that stuff. I implore you to consider that a guy who cares enough about the opinions people have of his marriage would not want people blaming his wife for his decisions. The whole idea is to, yes, protect himself, but also protect her. So blaming her for his decision, if you're a Ninja fan, is probably not what he wants. Just please consider that. I'm not going to go political or anything like that. I'm not going to go issue driven on that. Just please consider that. This blame the spouse thing has always driven me crazy. And that's a big reason why. It's not that it doesn't happen. I know certain YouTube personalities who wouldn't even respond to my requests. Like, just to talk. Just to, hey, you're a YouTuber, I'm a YouTuber, you go through shit, I go through shit. Let's chat. Wouldn't respond to me. Or barely respond to me until they had a very high-profile breakup with their wife/girlfriend. And all of a sudden, hey, awesome. It happens, right? Don't assume. Wait for evidence in that regard. There were various forms of, why is it Ninja's responsibility to do anything? What's his responsibility here? And the answer is, to be completely blunt, Ninja's responsibility is to be a good Fortnite player. That's it. There are various business benefits for him to be more than that. The people who decide, who pick winners and losers in terms of YouTube influencers, obviously have a type. They want the squeaky clean boy band, girl band type. Because they're going for that teenage cohort. does that mean he has a responsibility to some sort of moral responsibility to be that? No, it's a fiscal financial decision, not a moral one. Being good at Fortnite doesn't make you a good person, right? The thing is, yes, he's entitled to do anything he wants with this channel as long as it stays in the Twitch rules. Other people are allowed to have opinions on what he does, as long as they stick to the facts. And that's why I decided to make that video, because, yeah, I missed the fact that she misrepresented Sarkeesian misrepresented his intentions, because I don't agree. I made it clear I don't agree with this decision, but you can disagree with somebody and still get the facts right? Like, don't misquote him. Don't mischaracterize his intentions, his stated intentions. We have no reason to believe that his stated intentions are anything but true, right? Oron Darklord brought up an interesting point, that there is a justifiable explanation for why somebody would be uncomfortable associating with women right now, but it's not the one Ninja gave. That's Oron in this in his comment said that. He talked about fear of accusation. And the whole thing now of people can emotionally understand why if you don't put yourself in a situation, you won't get accused. And I realize that that's really no different than if you're never alone with a guy, you won't get assaulted, right? I found out the hard way that's not true. I got assaulted in public at San Diego Comic-Con. Nobody did nothing. The security guards there were there to check badges. Like, it can happen wide open. Somebody can decide that they can invade your physical. Yeah. And you feel gross. You do. And it's not the same as being accused of something, but it still wrecks your life for a while. So in that way, it's the same. And it's just tragic that instead of making things better for people in that regard, it's just gotten worse for other people, because we've so badly screwed up dealing with this. Because instead of, fixing systems so that people can bring complaints of that nature to various places in the right way, and there can be a proper investigation, people who are telling the truth aren't believed, and so they have to go public in some regard. That still sickens me, because it's a race to the bottom. As somebody who's not only been on the receiving end of that stuff, as somebody who's had to investigate accusations, some of them were 100% like provable. In one case, I didn't even have to do an investigation, because it was a guy in this case actually harassed me in an elevator at my own event. So when somebody came to me and said he'd harassed them, it's like, yep, say no more. I wasn't going to do anything, just me, but I don't need to believe you. I've seen proof, right? But others I looked into, and the story fell apart. And so, of course, then this person goes on the internet and says I'm protecting an abuser and all that stuff. So I've been on both ends. I'm just really concerned people aren't living because they're living in fear. And It's like I said on Monday's video, that means cool games aren't getting made, cool videos aren't getting made, cool books aren't being written, right? Because everybody's just trying to protect themselves first and foremost. And you don't get anywhere if you don't take a risk. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of these, with anything media. You do, in order to get anywhere, you do have to put yourself in positions where you are incredibly vulnerable. And there are still a lot of people out there who take advantage and get away with it, or get away with it for a great many years. And this is men, this is women, this is for a whole bunch of ways. No one has the market cornered on this stuff. We need to do better in terms of reporting systems. We need to do better in restorative and healing systems that aren't about blame. They're about somebody actually feeling better. There's too many people walking around frightened and broken. And I think that's part of why this whole ninja won't stream one-on-one with women thing has touched such a nerve. Because people can relate to one side of that or another deeply personally. And nobody's wrong there. That's the thing. Like, nobody's wrong in those feelings. I get that. Similarly, we get into this, listen to women when they say they've had a bad experience. And I say, and this is why I get accused of shit, what about listen to people when they say they've had a bad experience? Because here's the problem: when it's just one gender it's socially acceptable for them to be vulnerable victims, they are seen as the weaker sex. It's gotta be both. It's gotta be men have as much right to say they were victimized, to tell their truth, to speak their mind as women do. Now, that doesn't mean men get to talk over women. That doesn't mean women get to talk over men, and all genders, all gender identities between and beyond those 2 points, right? There are better systems of doing that than Twitter. We can do better in terms of discourse and debate. There are structures for debate. The Monk debate does it. Lassonde at York University debates. I don't know if they do them anymore. I haven't been to one in a while. But, people who do not like each other go on a stage. One, they're compensated for doing it. Like I said, you need a motivation for somebody to do it. But also when there are things set up that, look, we are here to debate in good faith, and people are not, looking to score points with their base, so to speak, when they're not constantly preaching to the choir, interesting discussion can be had. But that can't happen if people treat that as a betrayal, And that's why I'm always so disappointed when people like, Anita Sarkeesian go low the way she did with me last week. Because, up until that point, the issues between us were purely intellectual. Now they're clearly personal. I can't ignore that. She hates me. Like, all right, sure. I took some time with that after I got over the original. Did that happen? Then I realized that's a deeply personal reaction that I can't do anything about. So at this point, any hope of some sort of civil discussion or round table or debate or anything like it's out the window. Because, you know, you can't have a discussion of equals with somebody who will completely misrepresent you and not apologize. So that's unfortunate, you know. Now, then I realized, well, she felt that way before, so nothing was lost. It was never going to happen, you know. People put in comments like, oh, one guy put in comments, you're both Canadian, just call each other. Canada's a country of 33 million people. We don't have each other's phone numbers. It's really unfortunate though, right? Because there should be space for a bunch of different personalities in gaming. And we're definitely not all going to agree, you know? We shouldn't all agree. That would suck. When everybody in gaming is saying the exact same thing, that's an indication that people are afraid to say anything but that, or someone is gatekeeping, so only that view gets out. Like, if you compare video games to movie or TV or anything like that, even the greatest show or greatest movie has someone who hates it, right? And it's a high-profile critic. I remember back in the day, the Toronto Sun gave Ace Ventura Pet Detective 2 a bad review, and there was outrage. There was so much of an uproar that they actually re-reviewed the movie with a different critic and gave it like 5 stars. People are allowed to have different opinions about media, about entertainment, you know. There are a lot of games that are very successful. They're not my thing. There are a lot of TV shows that are super popular, and I don't get it. You know, I know you guys agree. A lot of you agree with me on Big Bang Theory. That show went so many seasons, and I just thought it was terrible. I only liked it when Sarah Gilbert, was it Sarah Gilbert? Yeah, was on the show. And then, we don't know what to do with her. So that, you know, shining moment ended. But that was a very successful show. Other shows that people dump all over, I like, you know. There's a lot more diversity of opinion in other media than there is in gaming. And that's an indication something's wrong with the way we talk about games. There's nothing wrong with video games. There's nothing wrong with gamers. There's something wrong with the media surrounding games. There's too much forced homogeny of opinion that's allowed to be given air. Like, I don't understand, since everything is click-driven and SEO, why a website wouldn't do for 10 years I pushed for counterpoint pieces about games, and no one ever went for them because they were always like, well, that costs double the money. It's like, but it'll bring you twice the traffic, and then everybody will feel represented. It's all going to come out in the wash. You'll get more readers because, first of all, it's a different page. But second of all, like, more people will feel like their perspective was represented. But games writing is so much about cost versus how much you can expect to make on that piece. The gaming websites don't think that way. And so we have YouTube where, you know, we get lost in the algorithm and we sort of have to sort of fend for ourselves and hope people see anything we watch, which kind of sucks. But because I've worked in other media, because I worked in television, because part of my TV job, was music. I've seen how other creative industries handle this stuff, and they don't go to pieces because people can't necessarily agree on the morality of a particular work of art. I mean, I remember when Madonna got banned from certain cities because she was grabbing her crotch on stage, and she said, you know, Michael Jackson goes out on stage and grabs his crotch every night. Why can't I do that? Like, that was back when Madonna was really like blazing it, right? That's discussions that other entertainment forms can have, right? Not everything they produce has to pass some moral censor. Exploring darkness is a big part of art, right? A lot of the time, media that explores darkness is a cautionary tale against that darkness. And if you can't ever explore that, well, you can't exactly show people the pitfalls with it, right? And that's why I don't like this never have anything objectifying, never have any content that is morally wrong in any way. Because if you can't do it at all, you can't examine why it's wrong. You can't examine the impacts it has, the consequences it has. You can't, you can't have that experience that a lot of people had with, say, Miranda and Mass Effect 2 with, oh, there's more to this woman than I thought at first. And the weird thing is that most BioWare characters are like that. They start off as a straight up cliche. You know, the Arthurian king with Alistair, the sexy witch with Morgan. I mean, she's named Morgan, for God's sakes, right? The, dashing rogue with Zavran. Move over to Mass Effect. Mass Effect is more sci-fi tropes, which work a little differently. But, you got, with Garrus, you got that sort of, straight shooter in more ways than one, big on the rules. Liara's kind of nerdy. Tali was a uniquely unique character. If that makes any sense. Like, Tali, I think, was a character that was maybe not supposed to be as big as she was, but she was just so popular because, of course she was. She's different. But she was techie nerdy when Liara was more history nerdy, and, these characters sort of blossom the longer you get to know them. And if there can't be anything leading you in one direction to then take you somewhere else, we can't challenge ever the idea that people, real or fictional, can be more than one thing at the same time. I have a problem with that. As somebody who was written off as a slut for a great many years, because it was my job to go out there and wear a push-up bra and a corset and spike heels because we were basically doing vaudeville. It was 11:30 on a Friday night. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's tired. They want a little bit of catharsis. But hey, give them that and then be really funny and really sharp in an improv setting where anything can happen, and let people realize that that woman you're, let's face it, possibly masturbating to on a Friday night has a brain and has a soul and has a personality, and she's a person. Imagine that, And hey, like, one of the things we had on the late night show is that any of the dancer, any person on the set at any given time, no matter what their role, had access. They waved the floor director over. They could talk. They could interject. And that was because, I didn't want to have the dancers just be seen. They had to be able, they had to have the opportunity to talk. They didn't have to. Some of them didn't. Some of them just wanted to dance, get paid, go home. But others, they sassed. They got involved. They were personalities. They were allowed to be themselves in whatever way that meant. And I thought it really worked. Like, some of them were not the smartest, but it was entertaining. Some of them were very sweet. Some of them were actually, like, there were some girls that showed up to dance. They were freaking smart, man. Quick on their feet, which is why we kept having them back. But, we had thick women before that was a term. We had a whole bunch of different things. Women were represented in a diversity in the 90s that there weren't that many, like, minority people on TV. Certainly not women with darker skins seen as beautiful outside of hip hop videos. It was a different time. It was, people forget how difficult it was to even make the case that Joe Schmo TV audience, because 18 to 24 male was the demographic back then, would want to look at a woman with a big butt, or a woman whose skin wasn't, that tanned color, that white girl tan color. Like that was it. The standard was so ridiculously rigid. And I was like, I grew up at Jane Finch. I know this is lies, and so I just did it. And we just did it. And it worked. Like, when you're constantly one of those popular shows in the local prison, that's a real compliment, because, talk about an audience that's looking to be taken away from their troubles. And that's sort of where I cut my teeth on my views when it comes to gender. Actually seeing how it worked instead of just going off of books and theories that, really started in the 1970s and didn't have a heck of a lot of polishing up, of testing, of improving, until, third wave got going in the 90s, which is about when I was doing TV shows. So it was happening at the same time. I didn't have the same access to that sort of stuff. Judith Butler just written her book. So it's like, and the thing people don't realize about a lot of the things that, we treat as theories, stuff like the male gaze, not only was that never intended to be an actual scientific theory, that was written, visual pleasure and narrative cinema was written as a polemic. It was a self-described screed. It was never intended to be anything but that. And the fact that it's stuck as having any sort of rigor is weird. And, it wasn't until Martha Nussbaum codified as a philosopher, codified markers of objectification, and Judith Butler went, well, no, hold on. We don't exist in a camera framing. Gender's performed, right? It wasn't until those women much later started actually writing stuff that had to sort of pass some sort of academic muster that anything really got codified, anything really got tested that way. And I find it so weird that with all this wokeness, Bell Hooks in Black Looks, Race, and Representation, again, and was it the 80s or the 90s? I don't remember right now. But she pointed out how racist male gaze theory is. And I think this is really applicable to games. Just because if, you watched episode 3 of Boss Fight, a greater percentage of Black youth play video games than white youth. And, if people think that, it's not the same anymore, Black people feel safe in white spaces. What happened last summer hopefully wised you up to that. And Bell Hooks pointed out that where a Black man in the 1970s was coming from and where a white man was coming from when he went to the movies and looked at a white woman was very different. So you can't say that there is a single male gaze. And you can't say that you cannot remove subjectivity about what that gaze means. One director may take a shot and go, we are making a commentary on the treatment of women in this regard. Another director will take the exact same shot just because he's a pervert, right? And denial of subjectivity is actually a marker of objectification, which is so ironic that... Anyway, there are problems with gaze theory. There are serious problems with gaze theory in interactive media. And no matter how many times people try to shut me down, it doesn't change the fact there are problems with male gaze theory. Jacques Lacan's greater gaze theory is way more complex than this idea, you create a property for men, it's automatically bad. Even Martha Nussbaum said not all objectification is inherently bad. The example she used, among others, was BDSM play. That everybody's consenting there. So, woman dresses up in sexy lingerie for date night. That's not bad. That's intimacy, right? These are complex, and, you can't reduce the human condition to a bumper sticker or a tweet, right? As much as people keep trying. And again, no matter how many times these powers that be try to shut me down, I keep running the numbers and they're wrong. So what am I supposed to do? Just shut up because people are mean to me? I'm not going to do that. I'm a freaking gamer. You die, you respawn, you try again. It's ingrained. Just keep playing until you beat the level, right? Learn to block. What can I say? I come by it, honestly. Hope you enjoyed this. Got a little heavy, but it's been that kind of week. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.